Yo, what is good, my anime people? What is good, yo? So, Cop Craft. Actually, I think it's gonna be one of the more underrated shows. It's got a little bit of some old school stuff in it with like the soundtrack sounding almost as if it's like some cool jazz and stuff like that, and definitely not for everybody at this time, but for me, I definitely enjoyed it. Um, the other thing that was interesting to me in this week's episode was just the fact that everything we pretty much learned from uh, like the fairies and how ridiculously powerful they actually could be. It's kind of surprising, how much they, like whatever they could do um, with their powers and stuff, if they ever just decided to turn that against us, like it's a wrap, period. And they haven't decided to do that yet, so we're kind of lucky. But at the same time, we have seen time and time again that anybody who really kind of puts themselves in these situations to find out about this craft, or not even just this craft, but seemingly anybody who's involved in this scenario is most likely gonna get bodied. And because of that, it's gonna be bloody. Like, I did not expect this show to get as gruesome as it did, and boy, did it get gruesome. Like, first of all, we had the case of the beginning where we left off, and having our cops straight up, or one cop trying to fight off these guys who he himself doesn't even know is already being controlled and is like deceased. So because of that, it's uh, pretty clear that whatever like is gonna transpire, whatever's gonna pop off, it's gonna be nasty. And I say that because the body that we saw in the very end of the last week's episode, he straight up shoots it like 5 times, like a good couple of shots in this man. But it doesn't stop him. It doesn't slow him. It doesn't destroy. What I mean, like, it doesn't beat him. Like, shooting these like for bodies that are controlled just have a way of just snapping back. Like, because they're already deceased, they just keep going. They just don't know when to stop. They just go and go and go and go and go. So um, it's clear as day that if that is what's happening, there's no way, uh, that the cops, how they are right now, are even any way of help, shape, form, or helpful because of the way they handle these situations. The way that they see all of this stuff playing out is like, oh yeah, this was just another one of the days in the office. There's still no such thing as magic. And the one cop that kind of is starting to believe in it, or at least he believes in his partner that he's paired up with, is our main character. And I guess his name means cat, or like a fraidy cat in the elf's language. So it's even more hilarious to her that he has a cat at his house that he's allergic to, and he's keeping care of it, as if it's his own, So it's one thing to see the person that's always been treating you like crap, uh, not acting that way, and once you do see that, you're like, oh crap, like you're not as bad as I thought you were. That's pretty much the feeling I got when she figured out that he was watching over a cat and he's feeding it, and seemingly the cat even, runs up to the door happy to see him and stuff. So clearly he has a good relationship with this cat in her eyes, and she practically uses that against him in the case of like calling him a name that meant like Frady Cat or something along those lines. But she definitely is enjoying herself around him. She was supposedly lonely, and he literally saw that she was going to have to sleep outside because she didn't allow the people at the hotel that she was going to hold her weapon. So of course she wanted to hold her own weapon, not have anyone touching it, and they're like, "Nah, you can't come in if that's the case." So she was sleeping in the park. Like she didn't care. She's like, "Well, yeah, I'm not definitely not letting go of my weapon." So outside it is because our main cop did not want to pick her up or deal with her. But then hearing a like police siren going towards the direction that she's in, I think already kind of gave him the indication of just like, man, if she gets arrested or something dumb, my boss is gonna be on me, right? And then not only that, I'll probably have to hear from her saying you should have just blah 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 blah. Like he seems like a guy who takes steps before they happen when it comes down to things that might mess with his lifestyle or mess with just him in general. He seems like that type of cautious kind of guy, and he knew that that was coming regardless of the fact with her not wanting to give up her weapon. It's kind of like him as a cop. I mean, imagine if they were like, "Oh, sorry, sir, but we need to hold your firearm down here stairs, even though you're a cop and we trust you with our life. We need you to drop your weapon and be vulnerable to any attack um, that you may be hit by, seeing how um, you're a cop and your name is out there." But to be fair, fairies are still relatively new here, so it's not like they actually care to, reason with them and stuff. They're just like, if you don't do what we say, you don't get to stay here, and us humans are powerful. Like it always comes back to humans kind of trying to hold stuff over other people's head. I feel like just let the girl in, and she's gonna go into her room and not disturb anybody. But of course, they don't know that. They're just like, well, she has a sword, so let's hassle her. Let's see if she'll fight us because if someone has a weapon and they don't want to give it to you, the best thing to do is to continue to hassle them about it. But yeah, overall, we're looking at a very interesting group, like a interesting, like I was saying last week, the buddy cop, like the two cops that are working together and they don't even like each other type of deal. Um, it just works for me. Like I like to see if not only if the case is going to be as easy as they are kind of making it out to be in this case of it's these people, they're doing this, they're bad, and they need to be stopped. Like there's not too much more elaboration or like anything else crazy out of the norm about what's going on as of right now, anyway. And that's what I'm hoping kind of changes. I mean, we have people that are literally being controlled by another. Well, I mean, I don't think it was stated that he was a fairy, but he's using pixie dust and he can control it to a really, really crazy extent. So it kind of just made me put into perspective that he has to be from the other world to be able to use that type of stuff, right? So even if he isn't a fairy or a pixie or whatever, he's someone that still knows some very, very dangerous arts that are now being sold to terrorists or sold to people who really want to just do some bad stuff. And they're like, "Oh, here you go. Here's a way to literally control like 100 people at the same time." The only side about it, like the side that is good for like people to be able to get get involved and stuff, is they can't just do this without this guy who is making them dance and all that stuff. They can't do it without them. So because of that, it gives us a good reason to be like, okay, so without this guy, literally, it's not as dangerous as it could be. Because imagine if any random person was throwing out this bomb that we see this week, where they throw it and it kills the people before they even hit the ground, right? Like You're literally standing in a dead corpse by the time this thing goes off. This pixie dust goes off in front of you, and because of that, it really just goes to show that no one maybe has immunity to this or something along those lines. Like I can't even imagine what they're actually going to be able to to accomplish with this stuff that they're about to like let off. So that's another thing that I'm kind of interested in is how far are they gonna let the villains go to seemingly contain, like to gain a victory, or are they going to, make it so they don't necessarily even get that close to winning and gets foiled, you know, midway through or something. It's just a matter of time to see what really transpires overall, and that's kind of what I can't wait to see because a lot of these shows really strive on their in-game content, like them building up all of this crazy stuff that's happening and then just absolutely dumping it all out at one time because they're like, okay, well, there you go. You've seen everything we've been building up, and now here's your payoff. That's kind of how these shows usually go. They give you a ridiculously dope payoff for following along throughout all the story, and that's kind of what this feels like already. There's a girl who literally just told us that her sword is her life and her life purpose, and she wouldn't even to be able to sleep in a nice hotel bed and be able to get some decent sleep. She wouldn't even let them take the sword for that reason, so she could do that. So all of a sudden now she's left her sword at the dinner table after getting into this like debacle or like this kind of back and forth argument with our main character because he has to do all this paperwork if he actually wants to go out and destroy slash catch this guy that they supposedly can automatically say is the bad guy, and we just saw what he did. He's clearly the bad guy, but because he's a cop he has to do it by the books, and that's not something she's accustomed to and did not want to hear, seemingly, right? So she leaves out in a hurry, and because she does that, it puts us in a position to guess um, what the cop is actually going to have to go through when it comes down to getting her, when it comes down to actually meeting up with her, and figuring out just what the heck is going on. I don't know. It feels like I was saying, there's going to be a nice payoff because for her to leave her sword and stuff clearly means she was like angry or just like not necessarily happy with how things were being taken in that time period. So I am interested to see how that plays out in the grand scheme of these episodes. Not to mention the fact that everybody we've practically seen um, in this show that are bad right now are all like they all have the same ability to control the dead. So it's that kind of gives me concern about what the heck is gonna pop off at the end of this all. Like the people we have to worry about literally control as many humans as almost need be. And this was the prototype, so the prototype can control like 100 people. So if they get the real version, they're looking at, hundreds of thousands of people. So or just maybe just thousands, but still it's clearly enough to throw that in an area where the higher ups, a whole bunch of people that actually have a lot of say in the government and all that stuff, you throw it there, have them all messed up, and then you make your move. So that's really what this seems like we're getting into, and because of it, it's really dope because it just goes to show you how much um, like weird stuff they can do with fairies coming into this world and also bringing like weapons that even humans and stuff have no idea could ever exist. And if it did ever exist, it's more than likely we thought of it in like a fairy tale or something, and yet here they are making the fairy tales reality. So really, really interested to see what you guys are feeling on this show. I know I know some people have already dropped it and they don't care for it and stuff, but regardless of all that, if you're one of those people, you can let me know. If you're not and you enjoy it for whatever reason, that would also be cool to let to know. Because at this point, uh, it's getting kind of like the community and like the people who really actually enjoy like anime and enjoy shows and stuff. It feels like more and more of them are disappearing uh, as time goes on, and it's just becoming people that who talk about stuff because they're asked to, or they talk about things that they didn't really want to talk about, but because there's such a demand for it and like a cry for it, they'll just go and do it, you know? So I never want to be like pressured into doing something like that on my channel, but at the same time, if there's something out there that's so good that if I watch it and it might grow on me and stuff, yeah, please by all means throw it at me, but to think that people actually just live by what other people tell them to do and stuff was never it's not really my cup of tea. So um, if there's stuff out there that's really popular and people are into it and I'm not doing it, it's mainly because I either just don't have any passion towards it, like I can't make a full passionate video that I would want about it, or it's just the simple fact that it might not be for me. So hope you guys enjoy this show as much as I did this week, and I also hope that we can talk about it or talk about something on the channel. I'm always here reading the comments, seeing what you guys are talking about, and just either what I can add to it or maybe give you guys more shows to watch that are already been aired and fully dubbed, fully subbed stuff. So, with all that being said, I am the Anime J, and I hopefully we'll talk to you guys in another video sooner or later. So with all that being said, have an awesome one and peace.